This is TWiT.
Yeah, so this is, some of you may already know about this. If you are an Apple News user and you have push notifications turned on, and you have push notifications turned on for Fast Company, then you may have seen a Fast Company push go out to you, and it also went out to many, many others that included a racial slur and sort of overall vile push notification. And you may have been going, what in the world has happened? And it turned out that Fast Company was hacked. And so this was some sort of online hack of Fast Company where an individual, as far as we know, was able to access Fast Company's CMS, that's the content management system, and use that to be able to trigger a push notification for Apple News. As Vice's Joseph Cox reached out on a site where the hacker who goes by Thrax had posted information about this Fast Company hack, reached out and was able to interview this hacker. And the hacker said, quote, "It's not every day that you get to click a button and send tens of thousands of people a notification straight to their phone. I don't know the statistic for this, but it was lots given what we've seen." Now, typically what happens whenever these hacks take place is that the hacker or hacking group will collect data and will then post it to data sharing websites or data trading websites where you can buy data or trade, one bit of hacked data for another. And so that's what happened here. The hacker claims to have gotten some account logins with hashed passwords. So those passwords are not incredibly useful, but also, at least at first, claimed that they had gotten a bunch of drafts and scheduled posts for Fast Company. So that, those would be upcoming and eventual stories that Fast Company would be, or may have already written. Fast Company's writers may have already written. Of note, the person who hacked the website said that they wanted to embarrass Fast Company, that it could have been, and I'm doing another quote here, it could have been a hoax threat to life event, a hoax nuclear fallout, the hoax death of President Biden, a crypto scam, or anything else which could have had the potential to shift markets. Instead, I chose to embarrass Fast Company. So what the person is saying is, whenever whenever Joseph Cox asked, why did you do this racial slur notification? The hacker said their intent was to embarrass the company because the company did not do, according to, again, the hacker Thrax, did not do a good job of protecting itself, and claims to have gotten the login credentials off of one of these websites, these data sharing websites. Along with posting the notification, the many of the articles on the website were actually changed so that they had a similar message as the one that was sent over push. And what's interesting is that if you go to Fast Company right now, the website is still down. So this was updated on September 29th, but the hack, I believe, took place yesterday. The push notification, I believe, went out yesterday as we're recording this. And yes, Fast Company is still not up, not available for you to visit. And while they're working on sort of making sure that the site is secure and sort of seeing the extent of the damage that was done, they just push people to LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok for, keeping up with what Fast Company is doing in the meantime. Now, the information, again, that was available to let this hacker do this, it's unclear how long that data was out there, but the hacker Thrax said that was not only Fast Company, but many other websites whose credentials were allegedly available in a way that, Thrax was able to gain access to it. And what Thrax says too, and I find this part interesting, another quote, I want to add that this was completely preventable. Anyone could have done it, and that anyone just ended up being me. It wasn't a sophisticated cyber attack from a foreign state, and it didn't require specialist skills. Because again, according to the alleged hacker, they just went to the proper website, probably via the Onion browser, and was able to find just the credentials that were published online. So this becomes one of those moments where, and before I actually get into that, I want to say too, I think the biggest issue here, if I was Fast Company, I would be concerned about. You're not only, if it was Fast Company's website, that's one thing. Fast Company is dealing with that internally. But this hacker used the mechanism of Apple's push notification in the Apple News app. So now it's both Fast Company and Apple who are affected by this. And I don't know if folks remember or know this, but Apple is one of the most valuable companies in the entire world. And so I would not be surprised. You may have heard that before. Yeah, I would not be surprised if the full force of Apple's, forensics investigation team is set to help Fast Company in figuring out what happened, how it happened, and potentially tracking down the person who did this thing. So I would be shaking and quaking in my boots personally if I was Thrax, if Thrax is truly the one who did the hack. But in any case, this was, I think, and I hope it serves as an eye-opening moment for any news publication or anyone who has access to people's phones in such a way that, and this isn't speaking specifically to how Fast Company was doing it, but if you're storing passwords in like a Google Doc or something like that, or on the website, you've got a secret URL that has logins, or you're trying to simplify those processes in some way, you are doing your users and readers and listeners a huge disservice, and you're doing your own company a huge disservice. Things need to be protected to the full extent that you can so that stuff like this doesn't happen. The fact that Fast Company was one of several sites listed on this data sharing website is not great. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see or hear about a few more of these over the coming days. As Thrax potentially makes use of the information that they got.
Crazy that Fast Company is still down. That's some big impact right there. That's pretty crazy.
Yeah. And that's money lost. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
I do have a content blocker on, so I don't know for sure, but I'm going to go to that page and, I'll do it in a browser that I don't have a content blocker for, so that I can see if it is if ads show on that page. Because if there aren't any ads,
I'd be surprised.
Then that means that they're not making. I don't see any.
Yeah. That would be surprising if they had an ad on that page, but yeah. Yeah, that's pretty crazy. I mean, the reality is, like this Thrax person said, any person who either has technical knowledge, obviously, or even doesn't, just knows how to use a particular tool, can do a lot of damage if they really are, interested in figuring that out. There's not a whole lot to figure out on some of these things. And I don't know that personally, but I just know that through reading stories and like, this is not abnormal that someone's like, oh yeah, actually the tool they used was pretty, it's pretty easy to find that information. It's just, it's the person /people/team creating the site, creating the tool, overlooking something obvious in a lot of cases. And
I also
you end up here. Yeah.
I learned that Fast Company, at least according to Thrax, so could be inaccurate, apparently uses WordPress as the content management system behind the scenes. So,
and then I can now hear Steve Gibson from Security Now railing on
another WordPress hack.
Yeah, there you go. You had to see it coming.
About time we get rid of WordPress. What could possibly go wrong?
Yeah, that's crazy. And sadly, not the only time we're going to hear about that, but sending out that reprehensible.
I think that you could have done something. You could have done anything. You could have
I totally agree. Right.
Oh goodness, I'm going to say it. Snape killed Dumbledore, and that would have been enough. I'm sorry if you haven't seen those films or read those books by now. Then
spoilers.
There it is. But that would be something that would make people look twice and go, what the heck? You didn't have to go and do what you did.
No, totally.
The way that it's kind of explained, that part annoyed me because, the way that Thrax was like, well, I could have done this or this. All I did was this. And it's almost like they're implying that causes no harm. But the fact is,
obviously no awareness. Yeah. And it feels stupid to say this, but if you hadn't gone there, so many security professionals were discovered because they did stupid stuff like this. And then, they paid their dues, they paid their time, and then they end up getting, a crazy security job behind the scenes because the people, running companies go, okay, well, if that person knows that or understands that and was able to see that and no one else was, we want that person on our team protecting our security. So it feels kind of stupid to say it, but it's like if you hadn't done that particular thing, you never know. You might have had something on the other side of all this, but not when you go that route. You definitely don't. So not a good look.
Not a good look. There it is.
Not a good look.